So guys, welcome to my video. In this video, I am gonna try my best to explain Python and make you familiar with the syntax and the whole language. So I do hope you find it helpful. So in order to start, we need to install the Python interpreter, which basically takes your whole Python file and translates it into a binary machine code so the computer can understand the instructions, and it does it so line by line. So to actually uh, download the interpreter, we can just search up Python and go to this official website. Now there is a download Python install manager, but I don't think I will do that. I'd rather prefer the standalone installer. Now I do have Python 3.14.3 installed on my device, so I won't do that. If you do it, it will actually show you a nice graphical user interface to navigate through the setup, and it's really simple. So after downloading this, you would usually need a text editor to actually write your code in, so you can write Python files and save them in a safe place. But normal editors such as Notepad and any other form of those editors you see, they don't really support these files very well. You won't have any form of syntax highlighting or linting for that matter. So we will need an IDE, an integrated development environment. So we have two options. We can either download VS Code like this, or Visual Studio Code. So from this you can actually install VS Code for Windows. Now, I don't really prefer Visual Studio Code because it's actually bloated, uh, and the UI overall is not really navigatable. It really makes your eyes bleed. So what I'm gonna use instead is gonna be PyCharm, and this is gonna be a bit more production ready and heavy IDE, but this should be more useful to you once you get into bigger projects and advanced in Python. So we're gonna just click new and then new project. So we're gonna choose pure Python, and let me just rename the project to, let's just YouTube. And I'm gonna select virtual environment. You don't really need to know what that is for now. And as you can see, the app detects my installed interpreter 3.14, so I can really just use this one and then create the project. So now, as you can see, the project is created. We have this plus button. Let's just give it a bit of time so we can actually create files. So one convention to name it can be main.py. So here it is. And one settings I would suggest all of you to enable is gonna be uh, let's just it's gonna be, so let me just get into editor and then general. And yeah, this one, change font size with control plus mouse wheel in. So this is gonna help us change the font like this. Let's just see, uh, like this. It's really helpful. So let's just start with the simplest script possible in Python. So let's say you wanna print out something to the console. So you're simply just gonna do print, then you can say hello. But let's just run that. You can use Shift F10, And now if you run that, let's see, you have an error. So why is that happening? Because the word hello is not defined. Python thinks it's some form of a variable or attribute you are trying to access. So instead of that, we have to like wrap it within a set of quotation marks, so it understands this is a sequence of characters. So if you do this now uh, and run it, yeah, you get this word being printed out in the console. So we can also do something like print 123, and this isn't gonna actually show an error because this is a number. And yeah, as you can see, it prints that out. We can also do forms of some arithmetic operations. Let's say plus, and yeah, it also performs that. So we got our most basic form of a function we can have in Python, and outside of actually printing out things, we would need a way to store things. But yeah, because the program, every single thing, this right here, this number right here isn't really stored. It's not persistent. Python just executes it and forgets it. It isn't being stored anywhere. So in some cases, you actually wanna store some values. So for that, we have variables. And the way to assign a variable is to, let's say, first of all, we have the name of the variable we want to give it. Let's say I give it a message, and then equals gonna be let's say hello. So this time, if we actually print out the message, and note that we aren't using a pair of quotation marks, since it's literally gonna print out the word message. But if we do message, then it's gonna print out the value of message, hello. So yeah, we can store values like this. Now these values have their own unique data types. So this right here, these are considered sequence of characters which are actually called strings. So it's a string data type. And as you can see, this right here is the hashtag. And whenever you use a hashtag in Python, the interpreter avoids the line after the hashtag, so it's a way to increase human readability. So this right here is going to be considered a string, and then we can also assign another variable. Let's say number. It's going to be 123. This number right here doesn't have any decimal part, so it's a whole number. So a whole number is considered to be an integer. Now after that, we also have float float num is equals to, let's say, 123, and in case of floats we have a decimal portion with it, so it's gonna be considered a float. And then we have variables that are basically a form of binary. It can either be true or false. Let's say something might be is active. Now, in Python, you mostly use lowercase characters to uh, name variables, and you don't use spaces. Instead of spaces, you actually use underscores. So let's say is active. So it can be true, yeah, someone can be active, or it can be false. It can be anything in between that, okay? So let's just assign it to true. So this is gonna be considered a Boolean value. So these are the basic data types. Now, one thing that is very important is gonna be the distinction between integer and strings. So 123 and 123, these aren't the same. I know this might seem a little bit crazy at first, but one is considered to be a number and another is considered to be a sequence of characters. So we can actually see that if we let's say let's assign a variable um, called number string. I know this might be a confusing name, so let's assign it to something like 100. Now another one, you have this one, so let's just also assign another variable. Number 2 is gonna be 100. So first of all, the first difference is gonna be we can actually perform arithmetic operations with this number, such as we can actually print out 100 plus 100, another 100. So if we do that, we have 200. But in case for something like, let's say, number string plus 100, this, and let's do print number 2 plus 100. So let's just run it, run the file. As you can see, so first of all, when we actually execute this one, we're actually doing an arithmetic operation. We're adding 100 to another 100, so it results in a 200. But for this case, this is considered to be a character, so it says can only concatenate string, not int. So this right here is one major thing that you actually have to uh, take in mind. Yeah, obviously, both of them are actually stored in different ways in memory, but we don't want to get into that right now. So now we have this, and these are basically going to be our main data types. So right now we know how to actually store something using anything. Let's say name equals gonna be Ryan, so we can store the name, and we can also store things like age, and any sorts of things with the appropriate data types. But let's say this variable needs to have a dynamic value. And what I mean by dynamic is basically a value that depends on another outward or external input. So let's say we need to print someone's name. So in this case, we have to print the variable name. So if executed, it's Ryan. But let's take it from a user's point of view. We don't know the user's name, so we have to take the name from the users. We kind of have to ask the user to give us their name. So in order to do that, there's a nice function called input. So yeah, it takes an input, as you can say, it's obvious. Now the input is gonna be enter your name, and to make it kinda beautiful or whatever, we add a colon and a space. So input, and right now the input, this right here, whatever input we get, let's see, you can give whatever input you want. You can give something like let's Gavin, and yeah, but this right here isn't actually being stored somewhere, so we can later retrieve the stored value and print out something like, hey, whatever your name is. So in order to do that, we want to assign it to a variable, and we want to give the variable a name, and it's gonna be name equals input. And whenever we print out the name, now let's execute the file again. Let's say Farhan. Yeah, so we won't really wanna just print out the name of a person in most cases. We wanna print out something like hey, hey, name, something like that, whatever the name is gonna be. So the most smooth way to do that is gonna be to use an F string. So print, then a pair of parentheses, then F, and F followed by a pair of single or double quotations. And right now we're gonna tell hey, and then we're gonna have the curly braces. Now within this curly braces is gonna be the name of the variable or whatever you wanna actually give, which is not part of the uh, part, which is like not a character. I mean, it's gonna be considered a character, but it's gonna be dynamic. It's gonna be, yeah, this value. So whenever we do it, let's say this. Hey, Farhan. So we can actually do it in multiple ways. Let's say we can do it by this. Hey, then we can follow it by a comma and the name of the variable. Now we are entering the thing. Yes, it prints out the same thing, but overall, when you have to like print out multiple variables, you would prefer an F storing, which is a more viable option, and it's easy to read. So whenever you do F, then this is the name of the variable. We're gonna wrap it up within a set of curly braces, and yeah, that's how we're gonna do it. Now, there's one thing you actually have to consider, and it's that whenever you actually wanna take an input, it's basically considered to be a string by default. Okay, so if we like print out something, I'm gonna use a type of, it's gonna be type of name. Okay, so let's just give something. So the type is a class of str, which means string. Okay, so in some cases, let's say you wanna take the age of someone or their height in centimeters or feet, whatever unit you might prefer. In that case, we can't really do things like arithmetic operations and such. So we can do something like name equals int or float. So whenever do name equals int name, it's gonna transform the value, I mean change the value from like the data type from string to an integer. So if we now are gonna print out the type of name, I know it's not really logical, so let's just rename it to height. Let's just assume it's in centimeters, okay? And we also wanna rename it here. We're gonna rename it basically everywhere. And yeah, I could have used this reformat. Yeah, so this is gonna refactor the code. And yeah, this is a nice addition. Whenever you change the name of a variable, you can actually change it everywhere in JetBrains IDEs. So whenever you actually do this, let's say 123, and yeah, it's gonna be considered a class of int. Now let's say you provided a value with a character, let's say for Han. It's gonna be value error because it actually expected an integer, but it got a string. So you have to take in mind of that. Uh, Now, in order to avoid this error and do something else, we might need to catch errors using try catch block, but we're not gonna do that right now since it's gonna be a topic of the future. So let's say you wanna take someone's what can we do? Let's say take someone's age. So we're gonna assign a variable to store their age equals input. Enter your age. So after that we can do age equals int age. And this right here, we can actually totally skip this line. Instead of doing it in two lines, we can basically tell, we'll just wrap it up in the parentheses and then before it type int. So it basically reads as whatever the input is, convert it into an integer. And now if we print the value age and let's perform an arithmetic operation age plus 2. Okay, let's say 12 plus 2, it's gonna be 14. And now we wanna actually let the users know why the number actually increases. So let's just insert a variable using f-string. So we're gonna have a pair of single or double quotation marks precedented by an s. So now it's gonna be uh, after after 2 years you are gonna be age plus 2. Okay, so if we execute this, let's say we enter 23. After 2 years you are gonna be 25. So I hope you are actually like now familiar with these input, and if there are any form of errors in your code, I gotta say, yeah, it's actually totally normal, and writing it out as a beginner is gonna feel a little bit hard, especially if that's your first language. But I do encourage you practicing these constantly so it can become your muscle memory. So we can now do many sorts of things except for the input or printing out values or storing values like this, whatever this might be our username. So yeah, this is the bare bones you are gonna need. And in the future, and by the future I mean right after I finish recording this video, I'm gonna start recording another video. And so yeah, bye for now, and I guess I'm gonna come a little bit later.